Hi, welcome to Talent Agnostic, Kickstart's weekly podcast, where we bring together experts from across the tech market to discuss best practices on how to scale your startup. I'm Abraham Baluki, I'm super excited for today's episode. I'm joined by Kai-Tse Lin, or KT for short, who's the co-founder of Bellwether Industries. Kai-Tse, how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course, definitely. I suppose there's a lot to unpack here, but to get started, could you just start by telling me a bit about yourself and just giving the audience a bit about your background and what Bellwether Industries does?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm Kai-Tse Lin. I am co-founder and chief of operations at Bellwether Industries. So we co-founded Bellwether as a startup company about 5 years ago. But I've been exploring how to get vehicles off the ground for probably about 10 years. So our goal is actually to build the most compact and efficient aircraft for everyday city transport. So it's kind of like building flying cars where you can commute from home to work for every day.
Yeah, that's insane. The whole because flying cars is obviously something that you see sci-fi movies and you see flying cars everywhere, and you assume these things aren't possible, or we're still so far away from it. So I guess if you can get into a bit more detail, you said you were thinking of building these things for 10 years. You had ideas of personal transport and aircraft. Where did those ideas come from? What was the influence that made you want to make this decision?
So, I mean, say back 10 years ago, we were still in college. So always have been like very passionate about vehicles. When we're looking at cars or all kinds of, boats, aircraft, how can we make transportation better? Cars are getting similar, when people are having all the designs for over the past century. A lot of things are already designed till its best, right? We're maximizing the car space. We're putting, the best engine ever, faster car, more efficient cars. But it all I would say go become like a more like the best optimized vehicles. For a long time. But when we're looking at urban problems, there are more and more challenges that we're having, right? When cities are getting more populated or more congested, because it's well developed, when we have the best economy in all major cities, and it's getting worse. I mean, the problems we're facing are getting worse when we're having more and more mega cities being created, and probably two-thirds of people will be living in cities, and which is a very crazy number then when we're imagine
Mm.
that. So we're trying to find new solutions when we're going from ground transport or car transportation to finding new solutions. And 10 years ago when we were looking at, say, drone technologies, and that was the moment where we have DJI Phantom being announced, and it starts a rapid booming of new technologies being utilized for drones or new kinds of transportation or vehicle designs. We make use of a lot of new technologies and talents when eVTOL, which is electric vertical takeoff landing aircraft, started to get some new development or new focus from the industry. And of course, when we're looking at building flying cars, this is not a new idea, not at all. When we're looking at urban air mobility itself, although we are saying this word for these couple of years when we have more companies bringing these kind of solutions, but it has been there for decades.
Hmm.
It's just we
No, that,
haven't really had the chance to have technologies to utilize these kind of vehicles for everyday commute. We need
sure.
to develop new technologies and product categories that can actually serve the market and make the best use of the actual using scenario.
Sure. And yeah, and it is understandable that obviously, these ideas have to be fleshed out or spread out across a number of years to make up for technological advancements. But would you say, what would you say in terms of the regulatory obstacles, perhaps? So let's say you do have the technology and you can create the vehicles, and they could be used every day. Do you see any obstacles in terms of maybe governments or regulations preventing the use of those vehicles as well?
Well, I would say, it happens to all kinds of tech developments. A lot of times, but most of the times, we will have technologies being developed and ready before regulations are ready, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, governments are serving people, and it's serving, whether the product can be used safely or it's actually for the benefit of people. And so it makes a lot of sense, right? When we're having some new technologies and we're trying to bring this kind of solutions to be verified and to the market where people can use them. But it's our job. It's our job to develop products and let people know what we're actually doing and what's the vision that we're having. And but the good thing is, we are not the only company or the only people developing urban aircraft. There are more than 300 companies developing different kinds of aircraft, servicing, in the future, when we're talking about point to point, city to city, or intracity transport. Although we are having slightly different market sector when we're diving deeper into the detailed market or detailed use case. Say we're targeting at more short distance or everyday commute, looking at, from home to work, within London, for instance, from East London, to West London, off to Soho. Whereas some other companies are looking at from London to Birmingham, Birmingham to Edinburgh, or London to Paris. So, but we're all still developing similar kind of within the similar industry, where we call urban air mobility or advanced air mobility, using electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft as a new topology or a category. But it
Interesting.
would ultimately become various different kinds of configuration that can service different kinds of direct customers eventually. And that would definitely open a lot of markets or the awareness from the public or from authorities. So I think it was just freshly published today that FAA, Federal Aviation Authority in the US, that they are announcing some of the criteria for one of the aircraft company, Joby, for them to get airworthiness certification. And these are all like really good progress uh, for the industry collectively when we're trying to bring different kinds of vehicles to service either urban areas or suburban areas or metropolitan areas with air transport.
Yeah. And so that's an interesting point. So obviously you mentioned your focus being sort of intracity, and you just mentioned, urban areas, suburban areas. Would you say that means you're sort of at a race against the public transport systems? Would you say that in some ways is also competition, for example, the London Underground?
This is a very, very good question because, now let's say we look at 300 different solutions, building different kinds of aircraft. Most aircraft, to be honest, are building bigger sized aircraft to service longer range transport. Because I think, when we're looking at solutions, a lot of times we're trying to get an easier, let's say, way to get access to the market. How do we speed up the development? How do we scale rapidly? Get ready to use technologies off the shelf. So a lot of times, the solution that we're looking at are targeting at public transport from point to point, which is making a lot of sense when we're trying to reduce the cost of operation, when we're trying to get to the market way faster with a simpler structure or configuration. But for us, we're trying to develop something that can be used for a longer period of time. We're not trying to bring a solution that can be used now, but will be replaced 10 years from now.
Mm.
We're trying to build something that's long term that we can use every single day, and it's challenging. To be very honest, we're taking more time to understand the market, to develop technologies, to find the right logic of using these kind of solutions. But we're trying to find the best use case that can last for a longer period of time. And when you're talking about public transport, a lot of the use case, yes, if we're talking about from point to point, they are competing with public transport. Let's say from Heathrow to central London. That's from point to point, and that's limited by the infrastructure or by the landing pads, where places that you can operate these kind of vehicles. But we want to create something that we call any point transport. Basically, we want to open the transportation for everybody, wherever you want, in cities. So we need to, of course, build these kind of infrastructure or the use case step by step. But we're trying to find the right solutions to not compete with public transport itself, and then
Yeah.
create a market sector that's more towards private or actual use case.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably also the best way to go about it. You don't need to compete with it because it's not going to go anywhere. Public transport most likely, so it's good to find your own niche. Um, I'm interested to find out more. I think about your experience as a founder. So, I mean, you've had the business as you said for a number of years now. I mean, what have been some of the challenges you faced when it comes to scaling Bellwether Technologies Industries, rather? Sorry, up until now. I mean, what sort of challenges have you faced?
Um, so there are a few challenges that we're looking at. Say, like finding the right people would be really challenging for us because, um, we're talking about eVTOL as a new industry. Itself, you know, let's say a lot of technologies or a lot of the knowledge are developed from, let's say, maybe aerospace or automotive background, but in combination, it creates a new industry. So we need people that are having that kind of mindset of creating or building eVTOL aircraft. What kinds of knowledge that we can make use of, how we can meet aerospace standard, but with the productivity. How can we mass produce these kind of aircrafts and go into cities or electrify these kind of vehicles. So finding the right people that are fully aware of what's going on in the industry is very difficult nowadays. But of course, it's getting better. When we're having more companies joining, more people getting trained for the technology that we're going to use. But to begin with, it is more difficult, and for startups as well. Conventionally, let's say aerospace industries, it's a really established industry, with very high standard of everything, which is still the case. But when we're trying to find the right people, it still needs to go through a lot of filtering of that. Who actually matches the startup mindset of scaling very rapidly, finding the solutions, be really resilient. I think that's these are some of the key things that we need to look at. And of course, for the business as well, how do we find the right direction? Because this is not an entirely settled industry. A lot of things can change every day. So we need to have a clear vision for the end goal, where we're going, but we need to move very quickly as well. How do we interact with all the changes? How do we solve the problems very quickly? Pivot if we need to find the right solutions, right technologies that we can use, or the actual use case, or the right partners to work with. So going along to find a good roadmap that can get us grow quickly and hit the market at the right market at the right time uh, are a very big challenge for us as well. But we're trying to work along all these challenges with finding the right team.
Yeah, no, definitely. And in terms of the team as well, I mean, are there any positions in particular that you found challenging? If you had to name maybe a few examples of roles in particular that you found really challenging to hire for?
So at the moment, I believe that the search for talents is a big challenge around the world. I have to say, we hear that even within a lot of the corporates as well, even all the big names. So to be
Yeah,
very honest, I think hiring the right engineers is quite challenging at the moment. We need to find people that are fitting in the mindset that we have. Like I said, being really resilient, understand what we're trying to do, and solve problems very quickly. Finding the right engineers are quite challenging, and a lot of times as well that we need to look at public acceptance. How do we develop technologies? It's not purely just the best engineering. It's very important, but how do we find, put the right engineering, right technologies to the market? So integrate with the best design, or integrate with the best, understanding the needs from the market is very important. So to find people that are having this kind of mindset can be quite challenging. And I think the one last thing is also the critical thinking and being innovative. A lot of times people are being settled in environments where they solve fixed problems. But when we're trying to think outside of the box, right, to solve problems that are not being well thought through, or trying to ask whether this is even the right question to ask. Being innovative is something that we are also trying very hard to find the right people to work on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what I love about startups and scale ups. I mean, they're not scared to be innovative or think outside the box. Obviously, again, your business is a prime example of that. In terms of the skills as well, and the people you look for in their skill set. So we've noticed a lot in the clean tech industry, not only with electric vehicles or with renewable energy. There is a massive skills gap in the UK, and a lot of the time the solution that's put forward is, well, get more students into STEM subjects. But I guess, what's your perception of that? I mean, in terms of the skills gap, or if there's not enough talent in the market, do you ever look at people who might have transferable skills, or they come from maybe a different industry, but they can bring something with them that could provide that unique perspective to Bellwether Industries?
Well, for us, I think again, it's still a very big challenge, regardless of finding the right people. But yes, we do try to find a different approach for us to get the right talents to work with us. So it happens for our industry, certainly. So when we look at, say, some other OEMs using aircraft, you see them, the talents coming from aerospace or from automotive or even from, other kinds of tech companies, Microsoft, Google, because eVTOL itself is not a set industry yet, so you don't have somewhere else to source from. But of course,
Yeah.
along the time, when the industry has been in rapid development for a couple of years, we will have more people that we can actually make use of, or try to find from, or maybe some school programs would have training programs around these kind of topics, building eVTOLs or even electric aircraft, because electric aircraft was not a thing in the past. So while the industry has been developed, it will happen. But when we are as one of the earlier movers, it's very difficult. So we need to find people that are having the potential to grow with us. So we need to train people from traditional aerospace background, where they probably were massively working on fixed wing aircraft, but they need to look at a lot of new technology. So I think the mindset is more important, right? To find people that are having the mindset of challenging what's the normal thing in aviation, and that would definitely break a lot of walls for the industry. And another thing is to find talent from other places. So let's say as a brand, we have a lot of people applying for our jobs from other countries. So we basically receive CVs from everywhere. So we need to also source people from somewhere else, where we didn't look at the very beginning, and then you find the right people that are having the potential of growing with us, having the mindset, that are willing to challenge, and they're willing to jump outside of their comfort zone and explore new technologies. But of course, finding people with experiences from either aerospace or automotive would still be really helpful when they're having some basic knowledge around what vehicles would need, or to become like what's creative or innovative, that can be used in cities.
Yeah, definitely. I find it quite interesting as well that you mentioned, taking people with aerospace experience, for example, and training them or providing them with the right skill set. So I suppose, moving on from actually finding talent, when it comes to people management or how you manage teams, I mean, how do you usually approach that? What would you say is the best way to approach it from your perspective?
So as a startup, basically we build everything from scratch, right? So we need to build the right system, the right operation mechanism, basically a culture for people to work collectively in the company. So for me, I always try to bring the discussion on the table. I don't want to, especially when we're a startup. The flat management is very important, where we want to bring all the experience and expertise from the industry all together, that we can challenge the industry. So open discussion is always very important for us to find the solutions together. So we don't want to just give order, and we don't want followers in the company either. We want everybody to be able to make their decisions, to move very quickly, and then to bring their idea. So that also brings to finding the right people as well, because we want people that are creative, so they can think outside of the box. They can challenge the industry. They can challenge themselves, so they can bring challenges to the company as well. And try and error is also very important. We want to encourage people to never compromise on things. So I always encourage them to to uh, to find other solutions. Solving problems is always very important within the company. So to bring the right culture to the company is very important while we're trying to set up the whole operation and management at Bellwether.
Yeah, no, it's from the other conversations I've had as well. It definitely seems to be one of the main points that's mentioned, the culture, and the passion as well. I mean, is that something you look for when you're interviewing candidates, for example, or even once they've already joined Bellwether Industries? Is that something you also look for, the passion behind what you guys are doing? Is that something that you try to find out, or do you know how someone can tell if someone is really genuinely passionate about a project, or that they really want to make a change?
Yes, to be honest, we see a lot of that because first of all is that we're a startup. So a lot of times people choose startups over corporates are because they're passionate about something. They're passionate about making changes to the world. So we see a lot of people that they're willing to join startups and they're willing to take on the challenges. So they don't stay in a stable and established corporate culture, which has nothing wrong with it. But when people are joining startups, they're willing to challenge, and so a lot of motivation and passion behind it they are very strong. So let's say they've been thinking about building flying cars over when they were kids, or they've been thinking about challenging bringing their products to the market. We see a lot of that when we're hiring R&D people because products has been built in their DNA when they want to create something. But to be honest, when we're talking about like hiring operations people or business people, it's not always the case. But finding the right people fitting into the right position uh, is more important than that. So we don't necessarily need everybody to be as passionate as we want to build a flying car as our passion as our lifetime mission. It's good to have that, and we see that a lot in our business, but we need to have the right motivation. I think that's still very important because we don't want people to come in the company and then they're just doing the basic jobs and just want to get a job in a company.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And out of interest as well, I suppose when it comes to passion and your passion for it, as well as your co-founder as well. Um, First of all, out of interest, where did the name Bellwether Industries come from?
Well, so because we've been building, like I said, 10 years, probably from 10 years ago, we've been building vehicles that can get off the ground. We had our very first model. It was a hovercraft, handcrafted when we were still college students. It's called Gazelle. So it was named Gazelle because at that time we were solving a ground transport issue, and that's the core idea, is that because people we're now still living on the ground, we want to travel anywhere we want. And a gazelle is one of the animals that they are not limited by the the ground. They can go up the mountain, they can go basically above all kinds of places. So that was the initial idea. And then we had the second model when we started, developing the product in London. It's called Antelope. So it kind of like continue, as a story when we're building these kind of vehicles around antelope, gazelle, the animals that can conquer all kinds of ground conditions. And then Bellwether is essentially the leading sheep, as a pioneer. Uh, it's kind of like leading all these animals or the models the vehicles that we have been building. And it also represents that we are leading as an industry, building flying cars or building revolutionizing urban mobility.
Cool. Okay, awesome. No, that's really cool. And looking forward then, I mean, what would you say the future holds for Bellwether Industries? Maybe in the next year rather, in the next 3 years, and then in the next 5 to 10 years.
So I'll start from the ultimate vision for Bellwether because we're building something that uh we want to revolutionize urban mobility. So as a company building flying cars, it's kind of like um as we set as a mission that we want to fulfill. So eventually we want to build vehicles that people can use to travel to commute every single day. So it's kind of like the flying cars that you can use. We're talking about like every household should own one of the vehicles that we build. We call it Volar. So Volar is kind of like the category that we create, like cars, as a category. So people now every family owns their cars when they're trying to commute in cities. So we want to make that happen. And before that, of course, we're going to have different kinds of business models that would allow that to happen slowly. So operating through operators using these kind of vehicles would be something that we want to do uh, as an intermediate business models. Let's say, selling our vehicles or leasing our vehicles to private jet companies or helicopter operators, so people can actually book a flight like Uber or when they have special needs of using these kind of vehicles in cities when they're trying to get tourism or filming or even look at emergency or firefighting or even police to use these kind of vehicles for their first response. So these kind of special use case or on-demand services or private transport will be some intermediate business models that can allow these kind of business use case to be commercialized. But right now, we're developing our third generation prototypes, which we announced at Dubai Air Show a couple of months ago. Oryx, which was our third generation that's still currently under testing. And it has been using some of the new propulsion system, new flight control, and new vehicle structures and aerodynamics. So we're verifying technologies on that. But at the same time, we're also moving forward to our fourth generation. So this year we're going to have some really exciting design to be released by later in the year, and it will also be very exciting where people can actually experience the vehicles. So it's got to be quite interesting to see technologies evolve and the industry getting matured as well. When we're like I mentioned earlier, there are more and more companies bringing their solutions, uh, pushing the regulations to be more let's say discussed or it's settled. Would definitely help a lot of the companies to bring their solutions to commercialize or new people to join new talents to join the industry. Yeah, that would definitely help a lot for the mobility world to evolve quickly.
Sure. And you mentioned that you envisage a future where a lot of households have one of these vehicles. I mean, if you had to put a year on it, I know it's not an easy question, but if you had to predict what year it would be that it would become pretty commonplace for households to have flying cars, essentially. I mean, when do you think that would be?
So for us, 2030 is the time that we set to start having these kind of vehicles in cities owned by families.
Hmm.
So we're looking at 2030 to 2040 will be the time, the decade that is rapidly growing uh, the market. And so 2040, we're envisioning to be the time that probably most people in major cities or secondary cities will be owning these kind of vehicles for their daily commute. So that would be a very, I would say, fascinating future to look at. By 2040 to have people flying around to commute every single day.
Yeah, definitely. I want one of those. I mean, well, it's interesting because I mean, in terms of the price point as well, because again, you're saying it would be quite commonplace, so it would be almost. Would you say the price point would be very similar to just buying a car today, or how do you think how affordable do you think these vehicles would be?
That is certainly the goal. So, it's very challenging. That there's no denying of that. But by 2030 to 2040 will be the time that we really want to dramatically reduce the price point for everybody for these kind of vehicles. So we're looking at eventually the price to drop to 100,000 per model, and that is um, really affordable for an aircraft to be operating in city environments. But of course, to begin with, like I said earlier, uh, business model that we're looking at when we're selling the vehicles to operators when they're operating as businesses, when consumers can get access to every travel with a more affordable price point, buying tickets or ordering a flight. Uh, Through that kind of transportation, it'll be easier to start the actual commercialization or the actual market.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then you'd probably be competing with maybe helicopters, for example, which actually from what I've heard are not the safest. So again, I mean, as long as safety, which is obviously the main priority as well, as long as safety is there, it could be quite
Yeah,
interesting in that regard. I mean, yeah, okay.
yeah,
Well,
certainly.
there's so much more to discuss. I think we should definitely do this another time as well. But yeah, I think I guess before I sort of wrap things up, if anyone wants to reach out to you, Kai-Tse, or if they want to get in touch with you or find out more about Bellwether Industries, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So we actually just updated our website. So please feel free to go through our website to find new information. And we're constantly updating, the latest progress or the latest goals for the company. So you can go to bellwether-industries.com anytime, and feel free to reach out to us by email, info@bellwether-industries.com, or feel free to join us if you're passionate about working on flying cars or changing the mobility world in general. But and we're on all kinds of platforms. So I myself, I'm on LinkedIn or Instagram as well. Just really happy to discuss anytime with anyone.
Awesome. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on, by the way. Again, we'll definitely do it again because there's still so much left to talk about. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for coming on. If you enjoyed listening to this, you can check us out at Talent Agnostic. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Friday. So you can subscribe to that. This episode will be coming out, I believe, in a couple of weeks' time. But we will tease it shortly. But yeah, once again, Kai-Tse, thank you so much. And yeah, here's to another fantastic year for Bellwether Industries, and I really look forward to seeing the fourth edition that you were mentioning, the fourth version of the vehicles as well coming out soon.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome, thank you. Awesome then. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.